Good morning. We are going to wait a couple of minutes more to allow more people to get in the room, and then we will start immediately after. Thank you for your patience. So good morning. Maybe we start the webinar now. Good morning again. My name is Alessio Pettino. I'm the knowledge coordinator of the SME Center, and it's a great pleasure to be here today and to host this webinar. Today's topic is about cosmetics, and we all know cosmetics is an extremely important sector which has gone tremendous changes in China in this year. Yet there are a lot of gray areas, a lot of questions remain unanswered, and this is why today we are organizing this webinar. We hope to provide more clarity. So the agenda. So today's webinar will be divided into two main parts. The first, the beginning, we are going to have a very quick introduction about our center for those of you who don't know us, and again to an introduction of our main partner for this event. Then in the first main part, we're going to have a great speaker, and it's going to focus on a lot of basically on how to market and how to advertise organic and natural cosmetics in China. He will do so by providing a lot of insights from e-commerce, from Tmall. And by the way, it's not coincidence that we chose today as date for this webinar. As you know, today is the 11th of November, which is a pretty important shopping festival in China. So the presentation, the first part, will go into provide a lot of insights from data from these online e-commerce platforms, a lot of case studies, and so on. The second part, there will be a short Q&A right after the first presentation, and then we will move into a second part, which is more from the regulatory aspect. As you know, natural and organic cosmetics is a bit tricky, meaning that there isn't much regulation. We will see it later, but then we will also focus on a step-by-step checklist procedure that European exporters, manufacturers of cosmetics can follow to export cosmetic to China, not only organic and natural, but all cosmetics in general. So a very quick introduction about the SME Center. The SME Center is a project funded by the European Commission. We have been around for 11 years already, and our purpose is to help European small and medium-sized enterprises to get ready for doing business with China and to export to China. We are in the third phase. There will be a fourth phase starting in April next year. So we are going to be around for a few years more. We are implemented by a consortium of 5 chambers of commerce and business organizations in China, which you can find on the bottom of the slide. And we partner with a lot of organizations, Enterprise Europe Network, also government agencies, both in Europe and China. And we have a physical office in Beijing, which is where I am now. Very quickly, we provide 4 main services. The first one is called Knowledge Center. Basically, we write guidelines, we write reports and case studies about different sectors in China. Second one is Advice Center, which we have a sort of help desk hotline that people can use, companies can use to ask us questions if there are some questions about specific issues. For instance, my product, what information does the label of my product need to contain, or my product is stuck at the customs, or which standards I need to follow. These are all questions that you can ask to us. Training center, like basically like the event, the webinar we are doing today. And then we have an advocacy platform where we try to disseminate information about upcoming regulations, draft for comments, and so on. Very quickly, I would just like to mention a few activities that we're going to organize in this month, especially next week is going to be a very busy month. We're going to do a lot of hybrid events in Shanghai on individual income tax regulation and social security regulations. Another one physically in Beijing, if COVID allows, of course, which will be about strategic communications and government affairs for SMEs. Another one will be offline and online, but offline in Nanjing, which will be about HR, about new trends, employment trends emerging in China after COVID. And then another one on public incentives for SMEs, for technology SMEs, with some examples from Zhejiang and Hangzhou. And then other events. We also have a report on cosmetics, actually, and which we are in the process of updating. This report will be ready by next month. So this will be free, of course. Everybody will be very welcome to download it. We are also going to have a big European pavilion for SMEs in an upcoming big international industry fair in China, and it will be in Shanghai. And then we have also a database of FAQs and also a self-diagnosis tool that people can use to test their knowledge on and readiness of China. Here I have prepared a video which I would like to, a short video which I would like to share with you, is how this self-diagnosis tool works. So basically there are different quizzes about the business environment, about the product, about tax issues. So these are multiple choice questions, and you see this is an example of how it works. And then at the end you get an assessment. So basically, according to the answers you have given, you will get detailed answers to the questions, why one answer was right, which one was wrong. And then we link to relevant resources we have, like webinar recordings, FAQs, or other reports, and so on. This is completely free, and I invite you to use it. Next, for this webinar, of course, there will be Q&A sessions, but you're welcome to submit questions at any point of the presentation, and the earlier the better, because time for Q&A session will be limited, so we will give priority to the questions submitted first. And please do so in the Q&A button chat of Zoom. Before moving into the first presentation, I would like to invite Miss Ilaria Perla from the Estonia Asia Trade Agency, which is our partner, our main partner for this event, for a very quick introduction about her organization and their very interesting activities.
Hello, hi Alessio. Hello everyone. I will start sharing my screen just to share a little bit of me and the organization where I work for. So I am Ilaria Perla, and I'm the expert advisor at the Estonia Asia Trade Agency, but I'm based in Beijing. I've been focusing on international trade, but mainly trade with China. And I guide companies in my role. I guide Estonian companies in understanding which are the complexities of the Chinese markets. In doing so, we organize several trainings before, but now they're all live webinars. And I would like to take this chance also to thank once again the SME Center for organizing this webinar today. So as I mentioned, I am part of the Estonia Asia Trade Agency, which is an agency below the Enterprise Estonia, the trade promotion organization of the government of Estonia. And through our agency, we enable Estonian companies to export to Asia. Encourage business cooperation between Estonia and Asian countries. We provide market analysis, market consultations and inquiries, and also we support with expert partner searches. In doing this job, as I mentioned, I am based in China. However, I have colleagues in Tallinn and throughout Asia. You can see our contacts here online, and this is mainly probably directed to the Estonian companies that are part of the audience. If you have any question on any of the markets, China, Japan, India, Southeast Asia or Singapore, you can reach out to all of us. And of course, for the companies that are mainly interested in China, you either contact us at the Estonia Asia Trade Agency or the EU SME Center. Now, I think that without further ado, I would let the speakers to start today's topic, and everyone enjoy the webinar. Thank you very much again to the center and to the great speakers of today.
Thank you, Lara. It's always a pleasure to join activities with you and your great team. Maybe now we can move into the presentation. It is my great pleasure to here we are, to introduce the first speaker of today's webinar, Mr. Andrew Atkinson, who is a senior marketing manager of a great consultancy called China Skinny. They do a great work with tracking data from e-commerce platforms, from marketing, and he will tell you more about that. But in any case, Andrew has been in Shanghai for many years. He has worked on many projects with also big names like IKEA, SAIC, and so on. He always he participates very frequently to many events and is regularly mentioned by media outlets, Forbes, CNN, CNBC, and Washington Post. So Andrew, I will give the floor to you, and thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Alicia, for that introduction. And yeah, lovely to be here with you all and having a chat. This is my second presentation with the EU SME Center. So some of you may have seen me before, but yeah, for those who I haven't, great to be talking to you for the first time. And yes, as Alicia has very aptly introduced me, but I will quickly just jump over into the presentation, what we're talking about today. So yeah, so I'm here to talk to you on behalf of China Skinny, and we are primarily a research agency based in Shanghai, and that research covers a lot of ground. So the things that I'm going to be talking to you about today just all come from our base of research, the projects that we're doing every day. So yes, we have tools which crawl and track e-commerce data on China's major e-commerce platforms, through to consumer surveys which we're running, through to just getting out in the street, in people's homes. We're in focus group rooms. We're constantly talking to consumers. So I think today's going to be a really valuable session. What you're going to get from me is a bit more of the softer stuff. You're going to get into the minds of consumers. You're going to be looking at what are brands doing in this area of organic and natural in the cosmetic space. Before then, you get into the much more serious, much more rigid world of kind of regulatory. And okay, all right, we've heard enough about the soft stuff from Andrew, but what do we need to know about actually getting our products in the market? So that will come in that second session. So what's on the agenda? So first things first, we're going to talk about just the state of organic and natural claims in China. And then how do these claims perform on e-commerce, and particularly skincare and beauty? Now, something that you're going to very quickly realize as we get into this presentation is there is a lot of restriction on particularly that claim organic in this category. There are only a handful of products that are registered on China's list of categories that can be regulated for organic, and cosmetics is not one of them. And so you're going to be seeing a lot of kind of brands working around the edges. And when we jump into the case studies of actual brands, we will look at some of these big household name brands and how they're having to do some of the same stuff that the small startup kind of skincare brands are having to do in terms of marketing organic. Because it's just, when you're under that regulatory eye, the watchdog eye of China's advertising law, then you have to be careful. Then we're going to jump into what does it actually mean to target consumers. And we're right now at a very interesting point of change. I think particularly a lot of our survey data, a lot of our trend tracking is showing that this as a feature is starting to pick up in importance. And then lastly, I think as I already mentioned, how are skincare and beauty brands actually utilizing the claim organic? So on this note, as I mentioned just earlier, because there is a lot of, I guess, vagueness in this particular category, organic in cosmetics in China, this presentation is going to jump around a little bit to try and communicate what it actually means in the market. So we're going to be looking at a couple of other categories where organic is more prevalent. We're going to be looking at a number of different channels, a number of different e-commerce platforms, and jumping in and out of this presentation to one of our data tracking products to kind of give you some live insight to the market. So because of that, I've decided to completely steal my thunder and give you really the summary takeaway points right now at the outset, just so that we do have context as we work through the presentation. So in summary, yes, only what, 3 minutes into the presentation. So in summary, consumer understanding of and value attributed to organic cosmetics is currently low, but it is trending upwards. And secondly, there is a huge amount of this kind of, I've termed it light illegal advertising of organic messaging across China's e-commerce marketplaces. And this is, again, as I mentioned earlier, the advertising law in China is incredibly strict, and it has a lot of quite interesting things you have to come to grips with when you first come to market in China. So the biggest one that people tend to know is that all superlatives are banned in marketing in China. So you cannot say that you're the best. You cannot say you're the purest, the cleanest. Even things like saying you're the #1 in something or 100% something does have to be proven and applied for, and you need to get that signed off before you can actually start using that messaging. So as I'll go into to talk a bit about later on, I'll give you kind of a first-hand look into what some of these actual product listings look like, and kind of some of the sneaky ways that brands are kind of messaging some of this. So then next, and that really kind of just brings up the point of the third point there, that social media influencers and non-traditional e-commerce platforms are really where a lot of the organic cosmetic discussion is occurring. And this makes sense. It's that a lot of these brands are trying to, they want to push this organic messaging. They want to start developing this and kind of own that space while it's still emerging with consumers, but they can't be from their own voice. They have to kind of separate themselves to not, as I said before, kind of go awry of the law. So you're seeing a lot of these community-focused platforms, these social media communities, low-level influencers, a lot of them being empowered by brands to kind of take on the discussion for them. And this is particularly relevant for the SMEs, who again, kind of traditional e-commerce platforms are so expensive in the first place. So really trying to make some margins there is difficult. So really trying to harness those much more inexpensive low-level influencers, those kind of marketing foot soldier consumer types in these platforms is much more relevant for actually claiming the organic space. And again, though, this is quite commonplace from a lot of brands. I mean, I give you in different fashions, so to speak, in terms of not wanting to be the ones who are saying things that are quite tenuous. So I think about a client of ours who has a hair removal treatment, very beauty focused hair removal treatment, and they will never claim it. They will never voice it themselves. But there is quite a strong body of consumers who believe that their product in particular whitens and brightens the skin once it's been used to remove hair. Now, they will never claim that because it's very tenuous, but it is a huge driver, brightening and whitening in China. And so they're quite happy just to be hands off and let that organically run without actually saying anything officially themselves. So it's kind of a very similar situation. Right, on to the fourth point. Current messaging should bundle organic into the wider trend of clean beauty that is surging in China. And this makes sense with organic understanding pretty low, pretty vague in this category. we are seeing this wider trend of clean beauty really picking up, and we will go into that. But that bundles in everything to do with natural. You're seeing a lot of brands just push all these plant extracts, push every kind of natural angle they can, and it is really interesting. Number 5, and I know this is to be stressed, that around the organic certifications, because I know a number of you will have them in different markets. There currently is no hierarchy of organic certifications in China in this category. And again, that's just because it's very much when you can't actually market organic as efficiently as in other categories, the certifications just don't have the pulling power with consumers yet. So at the moment, if you were to, not that we have actually done this research, but given what we've seen in the market, currently these logos, we actually touch on this later in the presentation, the likes of Cosmos or whatnot, EcoCert, if you were to show them to a consumer, an average consumer in these categories, it wouldn't necessarily register with them, and it wouldn't necessarily cause them to pay a premium or be more attracted to that product. Whereas in other categories which have kind of more safety and quality assurance related things like, say, health foods, we work with a lot of Australian health food brands, and the TGA, the association which regulates the quality of health foods in Australia, that has a lot of meaning to consumers in China. So, when they say that logo or see that assertion from a brand, that will make them feel a lot more safe, a lot more assured in your product. That is not the case in this category yet. And we do find that also institutions will themselves need to commit to marketing themselves and the logo and their practices before this will also change. So it's going to be part of the brands, it's going to be part of the institutions, the certifications themselves who will need to market themselves. And then lastly, I think a very logical point, and this is something which we're going to have great insight into when we look into these trackers, these online data trackers in a little bit, is that there are a lot more factors outside of just safety and quality driving cosmetics purchases compared with other organic categories like food and beverage being the big one in China in terms of what consumers associate with kind of organic. Right. So I've just got 2 or 3 slides just very quickly going to run through just for a bit of context before we jump into a few of the kind of insights proper, because I was told leading into this that the audience, a number in the audience would have kind of low level understanding of China. So when I mentioned earlier, traditional e-commerce platforms where brands are having to be a lot more careful about their kind of organic marketing and in general just adhering to advertising law, I was talking about what you see here. So these are just market shares for domestic e-commerce and market shares for cross-border e-commerce from the end of 2020. Just because there's an annual kind of unbiased National Bureau of Statistics reporting, whereas all these platforms themselves will kind of report market shares a bit differently. And here we go. So you've got the likes of Tmall, JD, Pinduoduo, VIP.com in domestic, and then cross-border, Alibaba, Tmall Global there, and Kaola, Alibaba owns both, really makes up the lion's share there. So these are the platforms that I was talking about a bit. And I think, yeah, I won't linger too much on this because I think there might be a bit of discussion about cross-border and why it's relevant for you in the later section. And then also I mentioned that a lot of particularly SMEs and a lot of brands are marketing themselves on these kind of social community type platforms. That can just sound vague because, God, there are so many in China and there are so many different avenues for these discussions to be happening. And so I've just noted their little red book, or red in all caps as it's stylized in English sometimes, is a very relevant platform and something that we'll look into and later in this presentation. But I just thought I'd drop this link here on our website. We just have this tool which is kind of a platform debunker, and you can go into each of these different segments and then you can click into the apps within those segments and just learn a little bit about them. So you can see beauty there is another one that you can go into, where it has a whole host of apps within that as well. Yeah, there's a reason that the average Chinese consumer has between 50 to 60 apps on their phone. You know, there is a whole host of ways that they can communicate with brands and engage with brands and each other. Now, last bit of context before into the presentation proper. So these trackers that we're going to jump into shortly, as part of being in the audience today, you do have access to an exclusive 20% discount if you do like what you see and you wanted to get into them to learn some more. So at that website there, trackers.chinaskinny.com, and using the discount code EU SME 20, you will be able to get that. But we'll jump into all this very soon. Okay, let's get into things. So, as Alessio mentioned, today is a very auspicious day. It's Singles Day, November 11th. And actually, this whole Singles Day campaign and lead up has been very promising for the subject at hand of organic, of sustainability, of environmentally friendly, because it has been a key focus of all the platforms involved. And part of this is because Beijing and their directives this year have really focused on, essentially it's come under this bracket of this term, common prosperity. And this is essentially a term that's looking to kind of push China forward and in a very harmonious way. And one of these factors is this idea of sustainability. And so these platforms, who have had a pretty rough year in terms of huge fines for being seen to not be following what Beijing has directed them to do. Alibaba, infamously, $2.8 billion they had to pay for some antitrust measures, have been really pushing this message. So Singles Day has seen, you know, if you go onto these platforms, there's a huge amount of advertising around these ideas around sustainability. And here and this came to the tune of spending, tens of millions of dollars in vouchers to promote purchasing products which were deemed sustainable. And so this is really filtering into consumers' minds. As we're going to talk about trends later, you will see that that it's coming from a very low base in China and working its way up. Now, what have traditionally been the organic categories? So again, I said before, just trying to kind of communicate what organic means more broadly to consumers. And here's just a quick search on an e-commerce platform about when you type your G or organic, what pops up. And as you can see here, it's very kind of health driven. You're going to see a lot of babies. Things like organic infant formula is a very typical category. And so again, it's just things that are associated with, safety, quality. That's where all kind of organic comes into it. And a lot of it is in that health food or food and beverage space. Just quickly noting here, just to really showcase you about this restricted activity in the organic space in e-commerce. So just there, being able to see on a search on these huge e-commerce platforms for organic skincare, organic beauty, you're coming up with just a few hundred or a few thousand results, whereas on just this one social media search on Little Red Book or Red, you're getting 50,000 plus results, and it's all heavy engagement, which is really focused in on the subject of organic products more, compared with e-commerce, which is more just kind of skirting around the edges of the idea of actual organic and natural. So can't push that strongly enough that if you are looking to claim space in the organic sector, you're really needing to leverage these low-level influencers and these communities on the likes of a Red platform, and make sure that your brand has that organic connection as this trend grows. All right, now for more of the fun stuff. So we're going to jump into this one of these trackers. So we have one for skincare and we have one for cosmetics or beauty. And we're just jumping in the skincare one. I think, given we've only got the best part of half an hour for the total discussion, we'll just jump in here. I won't go through absolutely everything, but here you'll see. So the first half of this is really all from this e-commerce data. So every month we're scraping kind of quite rich data from Tmall in subcategories within skincare. and beauty, and then analyzing it all to come out with these results. And then we pair that with a quarterly consumer survey where we talk to 800 active consumers of imported products in this category and ask them everything from, what are they currently consuming? What do they hope to consume in the future? What channels are they using? Where are they researching? Where are they purchasing? And then what functions are they looking for in products? Absolutely everything. So I will actually just kind of skip through a few of these, but I will, just for your interest, kind of illuminate a couple of interesting points. So this monthly performance, I think it's really interesting for you guys to see this. So obviously being Singles Day right now, biggest shopping festival in the world, and this really shows you how significant these shopping festivals are, particularly in this category more than others. So here you can see in 2020, this is October here, this is November, this is June, so this is the big 618 festival, e-commerce festival in June, and then this is the October just been, and we're about to grab the data for November. So here you can see pretty incredible spikes in purchases. So this is revenue on these platforms in those months. So one is also that you can just see how long the Singles Day period is. I think in fact actually October 20th this year was when there was the really big push, and actually there was a lot of that sustainability messaging, a lot of live streamers doing a big push and selling a huge amount of products on October 20th, all in the name of Singles Day. But one thing I really wanted to push here is that, yes, these events are important, but it is such a trap for foreign brands. Because yes, this is when there's going to be lots of eyes on your brand and product if you're doing a big campaign here, but so many foreign brands fall into the trap of just marketing at these occasions. Because really to stand out, you're going to have to discount your product. You're going to have to offer big bundle deals. You're going to have to pay live streamers and whatnot an inordinate amount of money to actually get some kind of consumer headspace and break through. And so if I actually look at foreign brands and their monthly performance, you can see these spikes become even greater. And you're looking at all these between months. So I'll get that out of the way, but you can see these between months down the bottom there, where there's just such a lower activity because these consumers, they know their foreign brands are going to come with big discounts and big campaigns at these shopping festivals. So they'll hold off purchase and then they'll buy in bulk, often buy multiple products at the shopping festivals at the lower price and then hold them. Whereas you compare that to these domestic brands and look how much flatter that is. Obviously, there's still those spikes at the big shopping festivals, but it's nowhere near what foreign brands are doing. And again, that's just because these domestic brands realize that they want to hold their consumers' interest throughout the year. For years now, they've been moving away from just heavy discounting at these festivals, but doing more kind of innovative things, different types of gifts with purchase, offering a more of an experiential thing, doing O2O things. So yeah, I just thought that was really interesting just to note, although completely off topic, but I find it interesting. So we're going to jump a few things and talk about something that's a lot more relevant. We're going to be talking about claims. So in a product listing on these e-commerce platforms, they have a lot of really rich information in the titles. The titles are much longer than what you'd expect on, like, say, an Amazon. You often have kind of many, many characters, which give a lot of information. A lot of them mention, the kind of key ingredients, key features, key functions, target market. And so we'll pull all of that and analyze that alongside, what is it selling for? What is it discounted at? Look at it, what kind of revenue is it achieving? And then we'll also look at that month in, month out and try and analyze the trends as well. And here's just why I wanted to talk about why, I guess, organic and natural is struggling to break through as much as it might do in other categories, which we will look at. So I've just pulled this down to exclude a few outliers. And it's because here you look at how many different kind of functional claims that the likes of natural is battling against here. It kind of gets to that last point that I mentioned in the summary. The fact that it's not just safety and quality that are drivers here. You know, there's a lot of other functional needs that are happening here more so than the likes of a food product or a beverage. Of course, you know, you can have a look and see that if we were to look at just ingredients and see that yes, there are some kind of natural ingredients that are coming through quite strongly in terms of, you know, surging sales prices and average revenue across products. And that gets to what I was speaking about before, that we are seeing brands really hone in on pushing plant extracts, vegetable extracts, fruit extracts, really hammering home that kind of natural component. Okay, I think we can, just in the interest of time, move off this, the e-commerce data, and now I'll quickly jump into the consumer survey data. Yep, so as I mentioned, this is just asking across a whole metric of different brand and product features, asking these consumers to rank them and then tick which ones are relevant for them. And this is getting into the kind of positivity of where we see that the organic certification, the messaging is really starting to grow slowly but surely. So as you can see here again, these kind of functional claims, these functional components of a brand are still far and away ahead. So you're looking at the likes of Suits Chinese Skin specifically, is just always going to be by far and away #1. And for anyone who follows any of the marketing from other Asian brands within China, you can see why it's pretty hard to break that. You know, you look at the likes of, you know, Shiseido, which is just spends unending amounts of money on domestic influencers who just keep talking about you need an Asian cosmetics brand because only they will understand your skin type. So there is that very much you kind of having to overcome that need to communicate with your consumer about, you know, why you're also understanding of localized skin needs in China and your messaging. And then you're looking at functional benefits there. But here we have a look at organic certification, which pops up. We have a look at additive-free and natural ingredients. So these things, even though they're not these massive drivers up here for consumers, they have been growing slowly but surely. You know, if you hover over these things, you can start to see it slowly ticking up over time. In our last kind of quarterly surveys, additive-free natural ingredients slowly picking up. So really it is, we definitely are seeing a trend, and I think it's very noticeable on a day such as today, where it is kind of in all the e-commerce platforms being mentioned heavily for Singles Day. And this just really hammers at home key trend perceptions. So we also just bundle a bunch of trends and developments in the market and then ask consumers to rank, you know, would you actually pay more for this? And as you can see here, natural organic skincare is definitely growing in terms of the trends, which is absolutely great to see. Of course, it's kind of quite an interesting one in the sense of, you know, you can see that there, but then it's really, that's kind of quite a positive hangover that's coming across from those other categories where organics highly appreciated, like I was talking about, the likes of infant formula and health foods. But then if you drop down, you can see the likes of cruelty-free, no animal testing, just really doesn't have a lot of meaning to your average consumer. You know, vegan skincare, it's just not important at this stage. Because again, you know, safety still, even though it's not as critical in this category as, say, an ingestible food product, cruelty-free, no animal testing means lower level of safety still to a lot of consumers, whereas natural, organic, or organic means a lot more safety in terms of, as a buzzword, just hearing that in the consumer's mind. Right, a few minutes left. So we'll move away from the tracker and we'll jump back into the presentation just to finish things off. But yeah, I have to be very careful because I can spend absolutely all day in those trackers. Very interesting. Okay. Yes, sorry, I just wanted to just really pull this up very quickly. So this is from our health supplement tracker, and if you just take your mind back to that claims page that I was looking at just before, you can see that natural wasn't on that. It didn't make it into those top 30 product claims in skincare. But yet, if we have a look at health supplements, have a look at natural there, it's kind of right in the middle. It's a really strong amount of sales revenue has been driven through it. It's a reasonable premium compared to the other product claims within the category. And so as you can see, it's got a lot more inherent meaning in something like supplements than it does in. So even though we saw organic surging in the kind of consumer survey and the trend pages, and the actual e-commerce data reflected in the actual live, okay, what are consumers spending their money on? It doesn't match up to what we see in supplements. So we're not there yet, but it is growing, is really what I'm trying to say. Okay, very busy pages for the next few, just because a lot of them are trying to just publish the kind of e-commerce listings and product listings on these categories to kind of just give you a feel for it. Also, I knew I'd be running out of time, so you guys can look at these in more detail after this. But yes, so this is quarterly. So a big brand, and just showing what they're doing on their domestic Tmall. So obviously they're on domestic Tmall, which inherently means that they are spending a lot on the market. But even then, this page talks about just what they're doing in terms of really promoting the kind of naturalness of their product, because they're not able to strongly market organic. But yet even they, as a massive brand, are still kind of doing that sneaky marketing of organic and kind of skirting around the sides. So on their products, so just on the left here, ads of natural and organic. So on their product listing pages, you'll land on a page and then a video plays of the product, a little bit of background, some jazzy music. And you'll see organic mentioned on the slides of this video. You'll also notice that organic is mentioned on a few kind of, it's embedded into pictures within the product listing. Now there's like 20, if anyone's been on these e-commerce platforms, there's so much information on these listings. So it's not something that is actually, you can write out. So if you were to type organic, this product wouldn't pop up because it's not actually kind of SEO embedded within the listing, it's in images. So again, it's just that's a typical case of brands trying to push organic. So whereas if you were to jump onto social media, you'll see huge amount of consumers are talking about this brand's organic products. But you would never know it apart from these few little indications if you were to look at their e-commerce presentation. Okay, interest of time, just going to skip through a couple, but again, this is just again more of the kind of same, but I wanted to get to the certifications. So this is, so Little Red Book. Just wanted to talk a little bit about this. So Red or Little Red Book, as I mentioned before, is a significant social media platform, and particularly to its history as a platform where travelers would be about to go overseas and they'd want to ask friends and families what they should buy when they went and traveled overseas. And it's kind of maintained that kind of ethos of being quite aspirational, a lot of foreign products, a lot of reviews. So that's what you see a lot of in this platform. But here is where, particularly late last year, they dropped 20%, so 5%, which allowed a lot more brands to be a lot more competitive on their pricing. And so with that in mind, they've really been pushing their e-commerce. And as you can see here, you're starting to see a lot of these kind of organic, smaller brands piggyback off the more community-based reviews of organic discussion, and then actually be able to, within the same app, convert purchase from that discussion. So I think that's where we're seeing a lot of kind of smaller brands really focusing on having, all of their kind of e-commerce tied up in these non-traditional platforms. So like your Little Red Book, or things like WeChat and WeChat mini programs. You're able to kind of foster that discussion around organic within the social platform legally, and then push on into having it in a sales channel within that app. Oh, okay, I'm running over time. But yeah, here was just a little bit of discussion about certifications. So as I mentioned above, there just really isn't much knowledge for the average consumer about these organic certifications in China as of yet. And here's a classic way of how they're displayed on a few e-commerce platforms. It's just kind of one of these image slides within a product listing. It's just kind of pasted on there. But again, there's not a huge amount of discussion on the e-commerce platforms themselves. And here's a classic example. This is just from very recently. You type in organic certifications into Little Red Book, and a recent discussion is very educational. It's from a low-level thought leader who's asking the question, well, what are the certifications that are relevant? And then educating people on them, because that is very much the stage that the market is at. Right, so, oh great, there's a number of questions, which I can get to. But yes, just to...
Yeah, maybe
yeah,
Andrew, I will raise the questions, because we also received a couple of them in the chat. So maybe you tell me when you're finished, and then we will start a Q&A.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I was just going to quickly review just in summary. I mean, it's just what we opened with. But yes, hopefully those messages are clearer to you now after going through that report, through the presentation. But yes, it's definitely, if I was just to leave you with one message, it's that, yeah, it's currently not reflecting as a valuable claim in the market right today, but it will definitely grow from here. And I think this is very much the time when, and it's already happening, as we've seen, where a lot of brands who are onto it are trying to really get ahead of others and claim the kind of organic space and organic relationship with consumers. So I think particularly if any of you, I think particularly see the certification bodies doing any marketing or doing any development in China, I'd be looking to try and collaborate and try and piggyback off that as much as possible. Right, Alessio, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Andrew, for the great presentation. I would move straight to the questions. I think there was one common question before in the chat. Are these data related to male consumers as indicated in the slides? If so, what about female consumers?
Sorry, male consumers or female consumers?
Yeah, I think somewhere in the slides was mentioned that the data you showed relates to male consumers. Is this a case, or also applies to female? And
sorry, I'm not sure where that was. There might have been a slide which earlier talked about kind of the demographics within.
Right. It was a comment in the chat. But I'm not sure.
Okay. No worries. Anyway, yeah, not entirely sure there. Sorry, but yes, no, it should have related to both male and female consumers throughout. There is an inability from the Tmall data to differentiate, but the consumer survey data, I believe we had 75% female consumers and 50% male, and 25% male to reflect those respondents. But within the tracker itself, you can actually click on, say, female and just see the female responses, or male and just see the male responses.
Right. Great. So the data, can I summarize that by saying that data you showed apply to both male and female, but of course your tracker is allowed to distinguish them if need for deeper analysis. Can you say
sure.
That?
So I wasn't sure exactly which data point was being. Anyway, yeah.
Right. Okay. Great. So regarding small, another questions from the chat, then we can go through those in the Q&A. Regarding small brands, their choice of e-commerce platforms in terms of efficiency, which one is better between Kaola and Bilibili? What would you recommend?
Yeah. So again, without just knowing everything about your brand, I wouldn't be able to say definitively, but if I was going to say the majority of cases, it would be Kaola. I'd say Bilibili is going to require a lot more investment in terms of kind of upkeep and development, because it's I guess very much a non-traditional platform. It's a much younger user base who are kind of often swept up in trends and hot topics and movement that's happening kind of every couple of days. And so if you're not kind of having a team on the ground in China, or don't have someone dedicated to your platform management in China kind of every day, Bilibili's, you're pretty easy to get snowed over. Whereas Kaola, I guess, is a bit more traditional, and as a cross-border platform is a lot more relevant for yourself, just from a broad standpoint.
Very good. So now moving into the Q&A box, talking about channels and platforms. One question is, what are the main channels for high-end organic products?
Well, I mean, if you're going to look at, we were just talking about Kaola, you know, the likes of that in, say, health and supplements and whatnot, and beauty more generally. If you look at the basket price on platforms, Kaola is much higher than your likes of your kind of your JD or your Tmall domestic, just by virtue of that being cross-border, being higher foreign prices. So people do go to Kaola to look for kind of more high-end products. But in terms of channels for a lot of other high-end organic, you know, particularly supplements and whatnot, you're looking at essentially the Daigou channel. So, you know, engaging resellers on the likes of Taobao or on WeChat who sell within their own networks. Less strong in Europe compared to the likes of, say, Australia or New Zealand, but it is still relevant and definitely growing. But that, again, is kind of a less traditional way in terms of not being able to just go, right, I've called up Alibaba and I've got an invitation to host on Kaola. It's a lot more straightforward and kind of easy. But going through that kind of Daigou, that consumer to consumer route, where there's a lot more trust involved, is also a way for kind of those high-end products to make their way into China.
Very good. So so there is one question, maybe at the bottom of the Q&A, but it's still on channels. So maybe I would go to this first, about B2B channels.
Yeah, so a lot of this discussion obviously has just been around, you know, C2C. I think that was kind of the main focus for today. When it comes to B2B, I mean, it's quite difficult now, but obviously, you know, when we're advising our clients who are mostly C2C focused, but do also have a B2B angle, you know, you're also just going to have to create a WeChat presence in some way, shape or form to start regardless, because China is, in the B2B space, is so relationship based. It is so much about connections and developing that. And so really, even if you're heading to trade shows, you know, you're heading to trade shows just so that you can engage with people and become personally associated with them, have their WeChat, and then be able to send them on a journey throughout your WeChat. Because at the end of the day, in China, more than anything, kind of business partners are consumers at the end of the day. And so you're kind of needing to develop yourself first. But other than that, you know, there's no kind of clear B2B channel for this particularly that's different from the consumer channels. And it's just how you approach that channel.
Very good, thanks. So I'm picking out the question, which I find very interesting. Being traditional Chinese medicine based on natural products and remedies, do you think organic cosmetics would be reassuring for the Chinese consumers? I think this is a very nice question.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I love those questions which discuss the world of traditional Chinese medicine. Yeah, I mean, organic is definitely already reassuring. As we kind of spoke about, I think when I mentioned that slide, which was kind of just showing images of, right, when you type organic into a sales channel, what pops up? And it's, you know, cute babies and health products. And also, you know, there was a few kind of TCM related products that popped up there as well. So there definitely is that element of natural that does pop up. You might, yeah, I could go on a big spiel about this big trend of, it's called Yangsheng, which is an element of kind of TCM, this idea of just natural products, you know, trying to kind of almost live like your grandma does, is essentially the way it is. So, you know, have all my colleagues are trying to, you know, calling up their grandma to kind of see what she puts in her tea, because that's a big trend now for young people in China. So there's very much that move. And I think as well, you see a lot of successful brands. I mean, a number, particularly, I keep going back to health supplements because it's just a very relevant category compared to this, because there's also a lot of crossovers with beauty there. But a lot of very successful foreign brands which have, you know, they don't want to kind of be looking like they're quite tokenistic in terms of just getting a TCM recipe and then just putting it into their brand, but they want to speak to the respect that TCM has in China. So they will kind of look to understand better why one particular ingredient or one particular combination of ingredients works well in this cultural mindset of TCM, and then try and incorporate that logic within their product development. Yeah, so to answer your question, that yes, that natural element is going to continue to be reassuring for consumers, but I think there's also a lot of opportunity to try and engage in a respectful way, kind of TCM principles.
Very good. So we have 3 minutes left, maybe time for 3 quick questions. What is the main age group driving the market?
I mean, Gen Z, particularly if you look in the beauty sector of things, Gen Z is pretty insane. You look at some of the data coming out of particularly beauty retailers, the really hot new ones, and it's just Gen Z just driving a lot. Very
good. And how important is adaptation of the product to the Chinese market? Of course, there is this Guotao thing, but maybe in terms of fragrances.
Yeah, again, you know, there's a variety of different ways you can go about this. You don't want to be gimmicky. You want to stay within your own kind of brand framework. You know, you've got this inherent advantage of being foreign with, you know, quality and certifications and whatnot that you don't want to lose, because otherwise you're just, what are you actually providing to a consumer? But as long as you've gone in really strong with your overall brand and product identity, what's made you successful in your home market, then you can start to kind of adapt, whether it be in your just marketing strategies or if you're actually going to go to products. Yeah, you're kind of looking into what's hot, what's not. I mean, recently you're looking at like hot pot flavored toothpaste was one of like the top sellers in personal care earlier this year. You get some pretty crazy out there adaptations, but again, that's all coming under the umbrella of a really strong brand identity first. So a lot of hard work first before you can start doing the kind of localization stuff.
Very good. Last 2 questions. In terms of trend perception, tailored skincare seems that it's growing. So what is the model being used? Are they produced on site, or are they OEM or DM from a factory or laboratory?
Sorry, I only caught a little bit of that.
It's the second last question.
Oh yes, see there. Yeah, well, a lot of actually the production is being pushed into China. I think it was only halfway through this year that, the name escapes me. The largest fragrance producer in the world, the French producer, cannot remember for the life of me, but you know, spent $250 million in starting an R&D center in Guangzhou. You know, a lot of this production is moving to these, like they're more and more calling them innovation centers that they're developing within China's borders. So yeah, in terms of the model, I think very different between each of these different categories and very dependent on the kind of relationships that they have. But yeah, a lot of the tailored stuff is happening. Okay, very quickly, you know, you've got these examples of recently a large beauty platform called Xinyang. They had these booths that they would install in shopping malls. And essentially what you go into these booths, you pay 10 yuan, and then you would put your face in it, and then it would do a scan and a test of your skin. And then it would essentially provide a printout of the issues with your skin and, you know, the products that they had within their e-commerce store, which would be tailored as a kind of a routine to help solve the skin issues that you had. So that's kind of also an element of this innovation, which is, you know, kind of combining products, combining retailer, combining testing and kind of skin analysis, you know, kind of bundling it into one. So there's lots of different models here.
Very good. So maybe the last question here, and then we move on to the second part. What are the product functions that consumers will want to buy more?
Anti-aging, moisturizing. I mean, anti-aging is, if you're looking for a king claim, I mean, anti-aging is you know, eternal. I think, yeah, one very good thing to know about China is the role that beauty and looking young in people's minds is so important for your career, for your happiness, for everything. I mean, I saw the data release from the kind of the largest plastic surgery transaction platform in China, and essentially there's a huge surge in transaction in plastic surgery in China 2 months before university graduation, because it's a very common gift to give to people to get, you know, a nose job done or whatever, you know, set themselves up to kind of look young, stay beautiful, and then they'll be recovered by the time their first job interviews come around, and then they'll be more successful. You know, so that's just a classic cultural case in point of how, yeah, why things like anti-aging are so important to consumers, because it's culturally baked into things like success. You know, which is kind of gross, but it's the world we live in.
Yeah.
Before I pass back to Alicia, but thank you so much for all of those questions. I know sometimes you kind of get silence after the end of the presentation, so yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for you, Andrew. And I mean, I think also the last question about anti-aging, we saw it in the trackers. It was on the top right corner of one of the trackers. So again, Andrew, thanks for the presentation, for the excellent work you are doing, by the way. Now I will move on to the second part of this webinar. Of course, there were a few other questions which were pretty general. For instance, how much does it cost and how long does it take to open a store on a platform? These we have at the SME Center. We have a lot of guidelines and resources, so we will be happy to share this. Just write us an email. Unfortunately, we couldn't go through these questions today because of time, but we will be happy to share many resources we have. So another reminder, I would like to say this webinar is being recorded, and we will in a few days we will upload the recording of this webinar to the YouTube channel of the SME Center, so you can watch it again, and we will also send you the slides if you contact us, if you send it by email. Now I will move to the second presentation, which is can you see my screen? I hope you can see my screen. Miss Demi Ding. Demi is the business development manager of Reach24H, which is a consulting firm. They do a very comprehensive and detailed and up-to-date work in analyzing all the interpreting new regulations about many sectors in China, not only cosmetics but also food and beverage and many others. They do an excellent job, and Demi has a lot of experience in working with SMEs and multinational corporations from Europe, US, Asia Pacific, and so on. So without spending more time on this, Demi, I will give the floor to you now, and thank you again for being with us. I'll stop sharing the screen. Yes.
Yeah. So thanks for the introduction, and I will share my screen now. Okay. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes,
now?
we can see the screen.
So good morning, everyone. This is Demi from Reach24. Thanks for inviting me to this webinar, and thanks for attending this webinar in time. I'm so glad to share my view on how to prepare for the cosmetic registration and notification under China's new regulations. And I hope this webinar will be a bit helpful when you enter into China market. So now I'm working as the BD manager in cosmetics in department in China for like providing cosmetics regulatory consulting service for clients, and at the same time I will be the project manager, the main contact for the cosmetic registration and notification. So yes, I have many years of experience in these projects. So my presentation is in 4 parts. Firstly, I want to talk about the organic and natural cosmetics in China. And I hope this could clarify your doubts about the organic issue in China. Secondly, I will tell you something about the regulatory background in China. I believe all of us know that Chinese government has released a series of cosmetic policies and a new notification platform, in May 2021. And after that, I want to share with you about the registration procedures and the required documents, like how to apply for the notification account, the first step if you want to register your cosmetics in China, and the responsibility of each parties involved in the notification project. And of course, I will talk about the required documents in details. And this part will also include the conditions if you want to avoid animal testing. And in the end, I will talk about the post-market surveillance and the suggestions under the new policy. So now, speaking of organic and natural cosmetics, I want to show you the ways if you want to enter into China market. Firstly, so there are 2 ways. One is the general trade. That means you need to register cosmetics firstly, and after that, you could export and sell your cosmetics online and offline in China. And the other way, as you can see, is the CBEC e-commerce. So comparing with the general trade, there's no need to, to spend several months or so much money to register your cosmetics. As long as your cosmetics is in the list of the import goods through CBEC. And for the CBEC, the next step you need to do is to find a reliable CBEC platform like Tmall, Kuala. Now in China, these platforms could provide one-stop service for you, like including the logistics, the warehouse. They could even open an online store for you. So now let's back to our topic. Organic and natural cosmetics. In the general trade business mode, I just want to jump into the conclusion. Sadly, no organic or natural could be claimed in the cosmetics in China, and both for the original packaging or Chinese label. But if you choose the second way, since there's no need to register your cosmetics through CBEC, so there's also no requirement about the original packaging. That means you could keep this organic or natural wording in the original packaging if you choose CBEC way. But it's still not allowed if you want to stick Chinese label to your cosmetics. So if you want to register your cosmetics in China, you have to revise the original packaging and to delete such non-compliant wording. So the key point that why China not allow the organic cosmetics is that China has not established a specific law related to organic or natural cosmetics. So as a result, cosmetic companies do not have access to official organic cosmetic or natural cosmetics. So they could not claim the cosmetics as an organic or natural cosmetics in China. There do also some other categories in China, organic categories like organic food, organic alcohol, organic Chinese herbal medicine, but no organic cosmetics yet. So if we want to solve this issue, make organic cosmetics compliant in China, we need to wait until Chinese government has a complete supervision system of organic and natural cosmetics. I suppose by then all natural cosmetics will be a hit in China. But for now, we have not heard any news about this in China. So now I will just focus on the regulation. You know, there are almost 30 cosmetics regulations in China now, and I just want to pick some key regulations which may need your attention. And the basic regulation, of course, is the Cosmetic Supervision and Administration Regulation, short for CSA. And there are secondary regulations about the detailed requirements for cosmetic registration. And now we also have the new definition and classification about cosmetics. So if you are interested in these regulations, we have our regulatory platform. We have all the English version about these regulations in our website. So now we can see the updated cosmetic definition and classification. So in China, cosmetics can be divided into special cosmetics, which include hair dye, hair priming, freckle removing, that is whitening, and sunscreens and anti-hair loss products. But there's also a different special one, that is as you can see, there's also a new kind of type of special cosmetics, which is the products with new efficacy. But it is not only about the efficacy claim. The Chinese government has released the regulation called Cosmetic Classification Rules and Catalog. So all the cosmetics will be classified based on the efficacy claim. Apply for dosage from target users and usage. So they will have its own corresponding classification code based on this policy. So for example, like each surface moisturizer lotion, then its code in China will be 11, 05, 01, 03, 02. So but if your products do not have such corresponding code based on this rule, then I'm afraid your cosmetics will belong to a special one. So it will be a bit different from your side, like in Europe. I understand that for some brands, they may claim their cosmetics may claim anti-blue light or anti-pollution, but this claim is not in the classification. So their products will be a special one. Even they are not screen or whitening, just some normal lotion or cream. So here's the filing procedures for for importing cosmetics. And by the way, for the technical term for registration or notification, actually they have the same meaning. They just for different types of cosmetics. Like for special, we call it registration, and for general cosmetics, we call it notification in China. So as you can see from the table, the main procedures keep same for both special or general cosmetics. Like the first step is you have to authorize a Chinese entity as your Chinese response person. and the formula, as well as the artwork compliance. And we could carry out the test in China and complete the dossier. The final step is we have to submit the filing dossier online. And the main difference is the submission and approval step. So for special cosmetics, the authority needs to review our registration dossier carefully. If they think all the dossier is compliant, they will issue the certificate. But for general cosmetics, based on the new policy, once we submit the filing dossier online, then within 5 working days, the notification e-certificate will be issued online. Then, of course, you could import and sell cosmetics in China. And for general cosmetics, it will be regulated by the postmark surveillance. So that means the authority will not review our dossier carefully during these 5 working days. And they will put their emphasis on the post-market supervision. That's why, for special one, it will take much longer time and much more money to get the certificate. So now we could see the parties which will be involved in our registrations. So usually there will be 4 parties. If the brand company has an actual manufacturer. So the first one is like our company, Rich 24, we will be the filing agency for you, and the overseas brand company will be the applicant, and they shall work together with us on the cosmetic registration. But above all, for any imported cosmetics, the overseas company shall authorize a Chinese entity as their domestic response person, just like I said before. And usually it will be your Chinese distributor or your own trade company in China mainland. Besides, if the brand has the actual manufacturer, then the actual manufacturer should provide related information for registration as well. And during this process, we may still need some information from the raw material supply, since for some risky ingredients, the spec shall be also shall be provided for these risky ingredients. And from 2022, ingredient submission code is also mandatory as well. Of course, I will talk about this code in details later. After preparing all the required documents, we will submit the dossier to an NPA or provincial NPA, actually, which depends on the location of the Chinese response person. So filing account application, which would be your first step to register your cosmetics in China, since the submission or the testing application will be done online. And there's also 5 parts which shall be provided by the brand. The authorization letters, between the overseas brand and the Chinese RP, and the information of the person in charge of product safety and quality. And this person shall have over 5 years experience in cosmetic production or safety management. So if your company do not have such qualified employee, I'm afraid you shall bring a new hire from them. And back to the brand company, for the applicant, that usually means they also shall be equipped with 2 systems. One is as you can see, the quality management system, and the other one is adverse reaction monitoring and evaluation system. And the last, the GMP, is also a necessary document if we want to apply for the filing account. So here I just wanna remind you that because for some of our brands, they do not share much private information for the registration. But under the new policy, this information is mandatory, like the passport number of the person, of the legal person, or the safety person. We need their private information. So if you want, so before you decide to enter in the China market, please take this into consideration. But of course, this information will not be open to the public. They will be submitted to the authority and will not be open to the public. So next is about the required documents. There are about 10 documents that should be submitted, and as you can see, like the product name, both English name and Chinese name, formula, Chinese labeling, and the testing reports. Usually the testing will be done in China. And we should also pay attention to the cosmetic product safety report, which is also a new requirement under the new policy, and the GMP, which is directly related to animal testing. So in the near future, every raw material will have its own submission code. When we submit the formula on the filing system, we should also relate its code. So now maybe you may be wondering, how could I get such code? It is actually your material surprise job. They shall submit all the required documents. I will show you the table, show you the required documents, and it is automatically generated after they submit the ingredient safety information online. And after the submission, the ingredient code will be disclosed by the NMPA together with the ingredient chain name and the manufacturer information. So when you have such submission code, cosmetic companies can directly associate the ingredient safety information by figuring out when they submit their finished cosmetics application. Then they can save time for sorting and uploading ingredient-related documents by themselves. So as you can see, it is the material supply. They shall submit these requirements to get a submission code in China. Of course, if you are interested in this part, our company has related integration and service on how to get the submission code. So packaging is also another key part in the filing project. And I want to emphasize that the original packaging shall be compliant under Chinese cosmetic regulation as well. So if your packaging is not compliant, we have to revise and submit a new English compliant version. So for the original packaging, there's not a lot to indicate the false information, exaggerated or absolute wording like super powerful, absolutely safe, pure natural, no additive. These wording are not allowed. And there's another one called claims involving relating other legal products like mineral oil free, alcohol free, or blah blah free. I understand that it's common claim by your side, but now in China, we do not suggest you keep such claims since it's against China's policy. So I suppose we all know that if we want to sell our cosmetics in China, then cosmetic label is mandatory. And many overseas brands will be confused. They may think the Chinese label is the corresponding translation of the original packaging. Actually, it is not the same thing. For Chinese label, it just contains the mandatory information. As you can see, the right table, it just contains the information of the brand, the information of the Chinese RP, the actual manufacturer, and the basic information like batch number, the expiry date. So you know, just taking a Chinese label is easy. So over 90% of brands will choose over label. That is just taking the Chinese label on the compliant English package. So a little recap. As for the packaging, we have to submit 2 versions. One is the compliant English version. That would be your new original packaging, and the other one is English version with Chinese label information. So as you can see, as for the safety report, you know, for special cosmetics animal testing and the safety report are mandatory under the new policy. But for general cosmetics, there are 2 ways. The first way is you could still choose animal testing, that is, you know, toxicology test report and plus the safety report. The other way is, of course, good news for cruelty-free companies. You could submit the safety report and then apply for the exemption of animal testing. So it's the red table is the checklist of the CPSR, cosmetic product safety report. You all could prepare these required documents firstly. But I suppose if your cosmetics has been registered in Europe, I suppose you should have such similar EU reports and all these documents. Since I understand that it's also necessary part if you want to register your cosmetics in Europe. And there's also a good news for you, since during the transitional period, that is before May 1st, 2024, during these 3 years, challenging test report, stability report, and the test report of the packaging could be supportive documents rather than a must. But of course, it would be better if you submit all the documents if you have this information already. Now we back to the animal testing. So of course, it's conditional if you want to avoid animal testing. Above all, animal testing exemption is for general cosmetics. Since for special one like whitening, animal testing is still a must. And there are also 2 preliminary requirements. Firstly, you should have the qualified GMP, which should be issued by the government cosmetic department rather than a third party like cosmetic association or organization. This GMP would be not qualified. It must be the government department, like the FDA or the Department of Health. The second condition is the safety report. The safety report could fully prove the product safety. So though it's a great news for cruelty-free companies, the challenge is also huge. Since, as I understand, in many European countries, most of GMP are issued by cosmetic associations. So if you want to avoid animal testing, maybe it's better for you or your manufacturer to deal with such qualified GMP firstly. And maybe you could talk to your local government, like the Department of Health or the FMD, just like I said. And as for the CPSR, it also shall be issued and confirmed by the qualified person, because not everyone could issue such report. But of course, our company has such qualified person who could issue the safety report. So also, you know, the advocacy claim is also a new requirement in China. I organized this table with the detailed requirements with the different advocacy claim based on the related rules. So if your cosmetics have function claim such as the whitening, anti-wrinkle, anti-acne, oil control, or even over 2 hours moisturizing, they should also have sufficient data to support these claims. But please, I just want to remind you that the minor difference about the literature. So for the claim in the third line, as you can see, such as the anti-wrinkle, literature could only be a supportive document. So that means you need to carry out the testing like human test, consumer test, or lab test. But for the claim in the fourth line, as you can in the fourth line, literature could be accepted as a sufficient document. You don't need to carry out other tests anymore. And the brand company, act as the applicant, as I said before, shall be responsible for the efficacy claim and shall submit the summary of literature, research data, or product efficacy evaluation on the specified website. And it will be open to the public. So again, a little recap on the required documents. We can divide these docs into 3 categories. The first category is about the product safety, like the formula, the product executive standard, CPSR, and the data of the efficacy claim. The following one we call it descriptive one, like the explanation of the product name. We should also submit the product packaging or the artwork as well as the Chinese label. And the last one we call it supportive papers, such as the authorization papers, the COFS, certificate of free sale, and of course the GMP of the manufacturer to apply for the account. So now we finally come to the last part. So regarding
maybe Demi, sorry for interrupting. Maybe it's before starting the last part. Maybe I would invite you to be slightly maybe quicker for this last part because we have many questions, and I think I would really appreciate to go through the questions. Thanks.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I just speed up my webinar. So I just wanna show the obligations of the Chinese response person. Maybe you could look at this table later. And the key part is we have to submit the annual report for the Chinese response person. Chinese response person will deal with everything for you in China. They shall cooperate with supervision and inspection in China after your cosmetics have been launched, and as well as assisting post-marketing supervision, like carrying out adverse reaction monitoring or product recalls if anything undesirable happening in China. So, finding a reliable CRP is very important. And, there's no technical review after General Cosmetics has been notified. So we have to put much more attention to the post-market supervision. Because during these circumstances, your cosmetics may be canceled. Okay, so now this is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Demi. Very, very detailed presentation. Of course, we had to go a bit quick, but we will share the slides after the presentation so you can look into detail the specific documents in the dossier and everything.
Of course, yeah.
Yes, I would now start with the Q&A and I would follow the order here. So there you can see the questions in the Q&A box, but we are a manufacturer. The first question is, we are a manufacturer, distributors of ingredients for cosmetics, and we will need to understand if the ingredient is listed on the relevant list for compliant list for cosmetic, so it's not a new ingredient. Is the registration for the code from the National Medical Products Association Administration still needed?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, of course, your ingredients should be in the ICNC actually, not ICIS, and you should have the submission code for your ingredients. Then your finished cosmetics claims could apply for the cosmetic registration in China later.
Very good, thank you. So moving to the second question, if we are distributing a raw material that is manufactured by 2 different countries, can we create one unique code to sell it? And the same question for 2 different suppliers, but with the same exact raw material. It's a bit technical.
So, yeah, actually, they are standard format for the ingredient submission code. So if these 2 materials, manufactured by 2 different countries, but they share the same trade name, the same supply or same manufacturing process, all the information is same, then they of course they can share the one code.
Very good.
Yeah.
Please, sorry, you were saying, I interrupted.
Yeah, but if they are, if the information maybe a bit different, then they should apply for the code twice.
Okay, makes sense. Very good, thanks. So what are the costs behind this code application registration process? How much does it cost?
You mean the fee? Actually, this platform, has not been released in China now. We all wait for the online platform, but of course, but it's actually a bit private in your company. Maybe you could send the email to us, and I will answer that. Yeah.
Right. Now, maybe I think this person was referring, of course, if you work with consultancies and intermediaries, it will cost much more, of course. But maybe I think this person was referring to the government cost, not counting, excluding the intermediaries, the consultancies.
You mean the application fee?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, there's no application fee in China.
Okay, that's great. Then another question, in case we use literature SCC, for example, for safety data, who is the safety assessor? A signature is needed in the dossier.
Oh, yeah. So you mean you want to use your own version safety data to get the submission code, I guess.
That's my understanding.
Yeah. I'm afraid, there's a standard requirements for such submission code. So their own version safety data maybe not accepted, but they could be supportive documents to prove their ingredients is safe.
Right, very good. Maybe another thing before moving to the next question, another thing that I would like to make clear, just for my personal understanding. You mentioned that, going back to natural organic cosmetics, you mentioned that the word organic can appear on the original packaging, right? But not on the label.
It is aimed for the for the general trade. If you want to register your cosmetic in China, then no organic claim shall be indicated in the original or even for the Chinese label.
Okay, so you can claim it in the original packaging only if you sell through cross-border e-commerce.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So speaking about cross-border e-commerce for cosmetics, do you think how good it is, how workable it is for B2B sales rather than B2C sales?
Actually, CBS is just selling your cosmetics through online platform, and it will be usually it will be the products will be delivered to the customer directly. without any third party, but just through the online platform.
Right. Maybe I think maybe I would invite this person maybe to provide more details. But I think my understanding is that if I'm a company and I want to buy a bulk or a batch of products through platforms, is it something that happens or not? But maybe I would invite this person to maybe clarify this question.
Since I focus on the regulatory side, maybe, but I heard that there are maybe some limits if you sell your cosmetics through CBEC.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So another question regarding animal testing. Can you sell the products online and in a physical store? I'll try to answer this question instead of you. Let me know if I understand it correctly. I think as long as you manage to have your product registered, so you already went through the animal testing thing, you can sell it anywhere. That's right?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Because for the CBEC, there's no need to register your cosmetics, no animal testing, because you don't need to do anything about this product.
Very good. Then another question regarding the registration notification dossier. If it is in Italian or in any other foreign language, I guess, it should be translated into Chinese, right?
Yeah, we will need to translate the original packaging to Chinese as a part of the foreign dossier.
But what about the application materials and everything? Everything should be in Chinese, right?
You mean the information of the brand?
Yes, but also maybe I don't remember. I'm thinking about all those documents that you need to submit as part of the application, like the safety test and all this. There should always be a translation in Chinese, right?
Yeah, all these documents should be translated into Chinese.
And should be a legalized translation or like with maybe legalized by the Chinese consulate in the country.
No need. It is just could be done by your by your agency in China.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Another question, which is a very interesting one. Maybe I have a misunderstanding. Andrew, the first speaker, told that it will be helpful to mention no additives or 100% natural issues for marketing. But then you are telling that it's not allowed to mention these issues on labeling.
It is actually, such claim. It is actually new in China. So now in China, we do not suggest no additives or 100% natural. These claims in China. But before, before maybe before April, these claims are accepted in some provinces in China, but maybe some other provinces do not accept these claims. It's gray,
right.
It's gray area before.
Right. Maybe if I may add another thing, I think what was also mentioned in the first presentation is that a lot of KOLs or a lot of key opinion consumers might use these words like no additives or natural or like organic during, for instance, blogs or social media, but it's not something that you are allowed to do on packaging, on labeling, or that you can officially claim as part of. That's my understanding, at least from the first presentation. So it's a kind of you can use external people to say, hey, this product is organic, but you cannot say that the product is organic. I think this is my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, there is an update from the previous question, and then I think maybe we can only take another question before concluding. So CBC for B2B, basically, yeah, my understanding was right. Basically, if it's possible to use this method to sell to business partners rather than final consumers. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, maybe you could talk to the platforms directly about this part. I think it's trade business.
Right. But in theory, but legally is allowed. I mean, it's not something that, from a regulatory perspective. Okay. What regulation, if any, could be applied for handcrafted skincare? And this is the last question.
Yeah, but as for the handcrafted skincare, there are many documents like manufacturing process, like the formula with full concentration. If your handmade skincare have all the required documents, of course they can be registered in China as long as they could provide the required documents.
Very good. So yeah, I would end this presentation here. Of course, you know, to all the participants, if there are any questions, you can reach out to us anytime. You know, we are here to help. We provide free. I will stop your screen sharing, Demi, because I have to share one last slide. So I was saying that if anybody has any questions, any doubts, or you can reach out to us anytime. We would really appreciate if you could take a couple of minutes of your time to fill this, to scan this QR code and fill the questionnaire form, questionnaire survey. Basically, this will also help us to have ideas on new workshops, new webinars that we can do, and we will really appreciate if you could do that. One very last point. No, I don't have any last points. Right. So yeah, again, we will share the slides and we will upload the recording on YouTube. And for any questions, reach out to us anytime. We are here. We are, you know, we are here to help you. And I would thank Demi, of course, for this presentation, also the previous speaker, Andrew, but also Ilaria. I don't know if you want to say a few words before leaving.
Yeah, I just want to thank Demi from my side as well for this very comprehensive presentation, and Andrew, of course, at the beginning. And again, do not hesitate to reach out to the EU SME Center for any question that you have. Or
to the Estonia Asia Trade Agency if you're an Estonian company, of course.
But given the attendance, I think you guys
sure,
can
of course. Right. Okay. So thank you all. Thank you, everybody. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.